Olá, bem-vindos a Gayshin. Hoje vamos continuar nossos preparativos maravilhosos do Festival de Irodori. Vamos ver quem que vai chegar no barco de hoje. Já temos a pintura maravilhosa do nosso Suikou. A pintura do Aoi no Kina. E vamos ver qual vai ser o próximo nesse evento maravilhoso. Vambora. Quem será que chega hoje, hein? Let's move out. Coloquei em inglês, porque eu vi que eu fiz o evento ontem do Ito. E eu perdi a dublagem dele em inglês. Tava super divertida, gente. Eu perdi, mas tudo bem. Kazuha! Tá passando mal, amigo? Olha que menino lindo. Olha que menino lindo.
Greetings, traveler in Paimon.
Greetings.
I heard there would be guides for the Irodori Festival, but I didn't expect it would be you two.
Ah, não tava esperando a gente? Até me depilei pra te receber, querida.
We didn't expect to see you either. Returning as a guest for the Irodori Festival, no doubt.
I was a little surprised myself when I received the invitation. But after wandering the outside world for so long, it's good to have an opportunity to return to my homeland and pay respects to my old friends.
Onde você tava viajando, hein, linda? Estão perguntando aqui o Gugu se o Kazuha está para vir na 2.8. Parece que sim, hein? Se você está vendo esse vídeo pelo YouTube, junte-se a nós aqui na Twitch. Gayshin Oficial. Não recusa imitações.
Kazuha, when we saw you in the distance just now, you seemed to be looking for something.
Ah, yes. You see, when I came off the boat with everyone just now, I suddenly heard light footsteps around me. I could tell they were not footsteps of a regular passenger. But by the time I turned around, the person had already disappeared. I only heard a splash come from below the pier. Even though I didn't manage to catch a glimpse of them, I found this strange piece of paper by my feet.
Ah lá, de novo, a figura misteriosa ataca.
Huh. How did you know? Fascinating. It's almost hard to believe such things could happen.
O Ale tá perguntando se vale a pena pegar a C1 dele. Sim, eu acho que pegar a constelação de personagens 5 estrelas vale a pena só se você já tem todos os personagens que você quer. Se você tem gema sobrando. Porque o personagem 5 estrelas C0, ele já é muito bem resolvido, né? A constelação dele é um plus. Aí vai do quanto você gosta do personagem, se você já tá satisfeito com os personagens que você já tem, essas coisas. Mas se vale a pena ser um dele, vale.
Sure, here it is. Please, have a look.
O esplendor dos 5 Kazen, Akahito. Por anos fui famoso, e desde minha juventude tive grandes ambições. Carimbei cada verso novo com um selo escarlate. Dessa forma, fiquei conhecido por todos. Mas ano passado, quando apresentamos nossos versos, descobriram que o meu foi copiado de poetas do passado. Por conta do roubo das mentiras, fui banido e obrigado a viver em solidão. As 5 luzes radiantes jamais se recuperarão, assim como as impermanências do mundo. Nossa.
Last time, Aoi no Okina's poem ended with a reference to... Story this time basically says that Akahito got his name from his love of red seals. However, the shogun discovered that he had committed plagiarism, and he was soon exiled.
Ele era um plagiador.
Well, if Paimon were to rate today's story, it sounds pretty unfortunate.
I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this story.
Olha esse
I
homem.
too was once wanted as a criminal by the shogunate. So I'm not all that different from Akahito mentioned in this.
But according to the story, Akahito was exiled by the shogun because of his wrongdoings. You did nothing wrong, Kazuha. Huh? Traveler, what are you thinking about?
Não te interessa.
Ah, by the way, You mentioned that your friend has been struck in Liyue and Inazuma. There is a saying, that which has been stamped. While sailing at sea, I sometimes carve things to pass the time.
Wow, that's an idea.
Ah, ele quer dar um selo pro Shinshio. Gente, quando o Shonjion descobrir isso... Quero ver o que eles vão explicar pro Shonjion. Calma, não é o selo que você tá pensando. Tarde demais. Adoro criar novelas na minha cabeça. Tem que olhar a tela? Uma tela branca usada para as pinturas do Shinko Kaze. Em breve será linda pintura. Não, era pra falar com o Albedo mesmo. O Dorin falou, voltei, fui pegar sorvete. Do quê? Qual sabor? Albedo, achamos uma forma de ajudar Shinshio. É com o selo do Kazuha.
Interesting. A story of the 5 Kazen appears again, and with a timely solution. Stamped seal, huh? Indeed, it is an efficient solution. If we use a stamp, then Shinshio won't have to struggle with his handwriting anymore.
Sorvete de pistache. Que delícia. Posso chupar?
Since Shinshio's signature has been previously revealed to the readers, it would seem insincere if he only used the stamped seal for his new books.
É, né?
I have another idea. Using a seal is a part of it, of course. Let's go to Uya Restaurant.
É, né? Metade dos livros ia estar escrito, outra metade com selo. Que porra é essa, né? Se fosse do selo desde o começo... Ai, Dorin, obrigado. É que a gente não sei o quanto você é com dividir a sua comida, ainda mais o sabor favorito. Vai lá, Crash. Bom trabalho pra você. Obrigado pelas dicas de hoje que você me deu do streaming. Vamos ver se vai dar certo isso aí. Obrigado, viu? Você que tá vendo o festival aqui pelo YouTube e quer saber tudo o que está se passando nas nossas lives, se junta aí, gente. Tem live todo dia, às 10 da manhã e às 7 da noite. Uma delícia, venha. Só tem homem bonito, vocês vão adorar. Tem até homem que divide sorvete de pistache. Tem coisa melhor? Num calor que tá fazendo. Que, aliás, aqui em Madrid também tá um calorzão, hein, gente? Chegou o calor, finalmente. Tava 22 graus em Madrid, vocês acreditam? Eu tô até seminua hoje, jogando com vocês. Fale com o Shinshio. Cadê a bichinha? Olha! Peguei as meninas no flagra.
Yes, that's it, Genyu. Your writing has greatly improved today, which means yesterday's intensive training was effective.
My apologies, but I simply can't do it anymore. My hands are so sore that I can't even move them anymore. I should have known better than to read novels during calligraphy class.
You just had a 10-minute break. Come on, you can do this.
You can do
When
this.
it comes to pushing a deadline, there's no one more brutal than Mr. Hirayama.
O Shunshio tá cansado de usar as mãos. Alguém tem uma sugestão?
No wonder Lady Yai would always send the editorial director to handle troublesome
Whoa, this is getting scary. It hasn't even been that long and Shincho's already zombified.
Mr. Hirayama, we found a solution that might just solve our dilemma. In both Liyue and Inazuma, seals are widely used as the equivalents of a signature. If we use it, of course, a seal on its own is not enough. First, we'll use a personalized seal. we can simply carve one using Chenyu's signature as the design. In addition, I'll also design a simple but elegant pattern that's easy for Chenyu to write. That way, he will only need to draw a simple pattern on each book.
Let me think. All right, I think that would work. Not only does it still involve the...
So, what you mean to say is, I've been saved from this predicament?
Foi
Mr.
salvo.
Hirayama, it suddenly occurred to me that the reason we gave up on live book signings previously was because it would take too long. But if we adopted Couch's proposed method, we might have enough time to do signatures at the live event. And if all the authors signed their books in the same fashion, then Genyu's signature wouldn't look out of place.
If you think it's feasible, I would certainly be happy to design signatures for the other authors as well.
Yes, and you may leave carving the stamps to me.
In that case, I shall contact the other two authors participating in...
E aí, gente, deu tudo certo.
It is a great honor to use a signature designed by Celts.
My pen name is quite complicated and isn't suitable for signing events. However, if we implement this new format, then it'll be a dream come true for me as well.
Great! Looks like everyone's on board with the...
I'm sorry to have kept you busy for so long, Jinyu. Please, take the books that Jinyu already signed can be used as special prizes in future events held by the Eye
Ah, então os que já foram autografados serão utilizados como prêmios especiais em eventos futuros, claro, né?
We did it. The event is saved.
Thanks to everyone's effort.
Conseguimos. O Ale tá dizendo que acha chique quem fala que tá tomando sorvete de pistache. Ah, eu também acho, gente. Pistache é uma delícia. Dizem que o calor da Europa é inferno, né? Depende da parte da Europa. Aqui na Espanha, menino, é complicado. Aqui no último verão chegou a fazer 42 graus. E é um 42 graus seco. Porque aqui o clima é continental, né? Não é um clima tropical igual do Brasil. Então é um calor seco do caramba. Mas tem muita árvore, né? Tem muito verde. Então ajuda. Tem muito parque. O Ale falou que queria chupar, mas é caro. Tá caro chupar, né, gente? O de pistache. Mas tem sabores mais baratos.
We still have some time to burn. Where should we go next?
Quando a Paimon começa a falar na tela escura ainda, é porque ela não vai calar a boca tão cedo. Ah lá, gente. Olha o tempo que demora pra carregar esse PlayStation. Aleluia! Olha...
There you are.
Olha a minha Kamisato Ayaka! Gente, eu não acredito que eu tô vendo a Ayaka finalmente.
Ayaka and Venti. That's an interesting combo.
I was just going to the festival venue to prepare the Ikebana lesson when I found a strange piece of paper on a flower stand.
Olha que menina maravilhosa.
This bar just happened to be close by at the time. He informed me that you've also found similar papers recently. As such, we came together to find you two.
Eu adoro que ela fala, esse bardo, né? Ela nem faz ideia, né?
But the paper she found isn't quite the same as the ones we found before. Here's the paper. Please, have a look.
Tá proibido falar da testa dela no chat, hein, gente? Quero ninguém rindo da minha menina. O esplendor dos 5 Kazen, Sumizome. O esplendor dos 5 Kazen, Sumizone. De novo. Mergulhei os versos nas águas claras e a verdade emergiu. Olha. Todo um mistério. Será que é uma charada? Será que vai entrar o Batman aqui?
Only 2 short sentences. Neither of them are next to the title or centered on the page. The position of the writing seems to indicate that there...
If we take the poem literally, it reads, "Dip this paper in water and see the truth naturally." Speaking of which, I have an ancient text at home, specializing in ancient and exotic stories. It mentions a special ink that will show itself when wet and disappear when it's dry.
So, shall we give it a whirl?
Vamos lá molhar o papelzinho pra descobrir o mistério. Mas também não tem muito mistério, né? O papel tá falando, me molhe. Mais claro que isso... Ai, que lindo. Eu queria tirar uma foto desse momento. Tem que ser a Paimon, né? Analisando suas poesias, descobri que as peças copiadas não tinham o carimbo escarlate. Mergulhei os versos nas águas claras e a verdade emergiu. Os poemas verdadeiros não foram perdidos, mas o texto desse crime desprezível desapareceu. Ayoi no Okina passou por mim, buscando inspiração, pois ele estava escrevendo um verso para Akahito. A tempestade ainda não tinha se dissipado e já era hora de escrever novos poemas.
Story says that after Sumizomi got the collection of poems from the plagiarized words and the poem became blue.
You see, Paimon, in the past, when printing was not yet well developed, handwritten text could easily become smudged, and to ensure the text lasted longer, they'd either write using a special ink or coat the paper's surface. Such special inks are time-consuming and laborious to produce. However, since Akihito's poetry collection was an important gift to be presented to the shogun, surely one of those two methods was used. But as for the plagiarized poems, not only would they lack Akihito's seal, but the words would also react differently when exposed to liquid.
Which means Akihito didn't plagiarize his work. He was set up!
Yes, it appears that this is the truth that Sumizome's story is trying to convey. Although the story is sad,
Ele não era um plagiador.
I've decided on the subject
Alguém armou pra ele.
Sumizome's portraits. Kazuha, Ayaka, would you be willing to be the models for my paintings?
Oh, que lindo. Vai posar pelado, Kazuha, imagina.
I would be delighted.
I would be delighted. Como você é linda.
Yes, as would I.
There you go. The next two portraits.
Yes. And now that all 4 stories have all been collected...
Long ago, Inazuma had 5 legendary poets. People bestowed upon them the title of the 5 Kasen. One year, the poet Suiko made his way to Tenshukaku and presented the Kasen's work for the shogun's perusal. But a page from the works of Aoi no Okina had been torn out, and Suiko was questioned regarding the matter. Suiko pleaded guilty. He admitted to drinking at the tavern the night before, and vaguely recalled a mysterious figure approaching while he was intoxicated. That figure was none other than Aoi no Okina himself. This turn of events had begun with an unnamed individual, under whose coercion, Aoi no Okina was forced to take drastic measures to retrieve a page of poetry. He knew nothing of this individual's true intentions. All he knew was that the poem had to do with an old acquaintance, Akahito.
Ah lá, que lindo.
Akahito had once belonged to the 5 Kasen. Each poem he composed, he marked with a scarlet red seal, hence the Aka in his name. Such a distinguished writer was he, and yet one of the poems he had submitted the previous year was found to be plagiarized. Akahito was exiled for his crimes, and only 4 of the 5 Kasen remained.
Sumizome went over Akihito's poems and noticed that the plagiarized poem lacked his seal. She immersed his poetry in a stream nearby, and only on the plagiarized poem did the ink run. Aoi no Okina passed by and witnessed Sumizome's doing, which he then recorded in a poem. Thus transpired the events of Suiko's poetry submission, and this is where the story comes to an end.
Muito bonito. Mas o outro ficou incriminado? Não entendi. Ninguém foi lá salvar o poeta que plagiou, mas não plagiou? Cadê a justiça? Tadinho, amarrado, preso, condenado.
Yeah. Ever since we completed the story, one of the 5 Kasen is called Kuranushi, right? It's just that, how could the story of the 5 Kasen finish without him appearing at all?
É isso que eu ia falar. Só tem 4.
Oh! Have you really not noticed?
Huh? Not noticed what?
Well, what he means is that the story of Kuronushi was already embedded within the 4 poems.
Huh? Really?
That's right. The key lies in the poem that Aoi no Okina wrote after seeing Sumizome rinsing the poetry collection. An average person could never understand the scene of a young girl washing Akahito's poetry collection in a stream. Even Aoi no Okina couldn't figure out the meaning behind Sumizome's actions. He was simply reminiscing and thinking about his old acquaintances. However, for the perpetrator who framed Akahito, it was completely obvious. He was worried that if this poem was seen by the shogun, then the shogun could discover the truth behind. So in desperation, he threatened Aoi no Okina to make him tear out this poem.
Which means, the one who threatened Aoi no Okina is the same person that framed What?
That's right. Though there are only 4 poems, they still managed to tell the complete story of all 5 Kasen.
Então o poeta que incriminou um dos outros lá era um outro poeta.
Since the shogun mentioned in the poems is certainly not the one of the 5 Kasen, the only character left is the mysterious one with an unknown identity.
However, this also brings something else to mind. The story of the 5 Kasen has more or less reflected everything that's been happening around us lately. Which begs the question, is there a Kuronushi in our world as well?
A Kuronushi?
Speaking of which, I wonder if our dear Kazuha has come up with anything.
Oh, right! Kazuha!
O que você tá pensando aqui, hein, Kazuha? Quem será que é o último poeta, né?
Are you okay? You've been standing in front of this blank canvas.
Apologies for making a wild assumption.
Yes. A few things did come to mind, actually. I don't mind sharing the stories, but I'd prefer not.
Hey, we're all friends here.
Kaidehara, please forgive my assumption, but perhaps you were thinking of the Raiden Gokuden?
The Raiden Gokuden?
It appears that Miss Kamisato and I were thinking of the same thing, but it also has much to do with the Yashiro Commission. It would be
It's fine. Those of us here are all trustworthy, so there isn't any harm in it.
Ih, vai ser babado que eles vão contar, hein?
However, this matter is somewhat complicated and may be difficult to explain. As you all know, the Yashiro Commission's primary purpose is managing ceremonial and cultural affairs, and Inazuma's art of forging swords. The Raiden Gokuden were once the top 5 schools of the forging art in Inazuma. Although these families were swordsmiths by craft, unfortunately, of the 5, only the Amenoma art still maintains its artisan lineage.
Amenoma é o nome da espada, né?
The descendants of the Ishin art are also still alive, but the craft has been lost to time. The descendants of the Ishin art are none other than the Kaidehara family.
Whoa! We knew Kazuha came from a noble family, but we had no idea.
Yes, but that's all part of the past now. My grandfather was dissatisfied with my great-grandfather's lack of effort when he was young. And in my generation, our last remaining family property.
I heard my elder brother mention that the decline of the Raiden Gokuden happened very rapidly. In the span of a few decades, later, there was speculation that all of these misfortunes stemmed from some background machination. However, since not every family of the Raiden Gokuden came to ruin, such explanations were treated.
Indeed. I've also believed. However, I know that a major incident happened to my. Not only did it affect the Kaedahara clan, but it nearly jeopardized the Kamisato clan's position in the Yashiro Commission as well. After reading the story of the 5 Kasen, I can't help but feel like it's pointing me toward the truth behind.
What exactly happened to your great...
I still can't say. I need to speak with someone to verify. I will tell you everything I know.
Nossa, de repente uma história entrou na outra. Liberou 2. Duelo das Lâminas Solitárias. Pátio Floral. Interessante. Abriu 2 coisas novas aqui. Muito interessante. Esse aqui desbloqueia daqui um dia. Que é a última parte. E agora temos essa parte aqui. Guia de compras para a estátua de Sua Excelência Narukami Ogosho Toda Poderosa. Toda Poderosa. Por isso é uma música da Anitta, né? Vamos então fazer essa anedotas Irodori. Então beleza, gente. Fizemos essa parte aqui. Foi muito divertida. E daqui um dia faremos a última parte. Vejo vocês lá.